for the public schools, and it never made it in there. That's why, I realize now, or realized way later, why. I didn't really know why at the time, but now I know why, is because they didn't want the people empowered with the knowledge of their rights. They want them to keep them oppressed and think that they have to just, do as they're told. They don't have any rights. And that's still the way it is today. Our people do not know. They're pitiful in that aspect because they don't know that they even have any rights. It's like we're not even human beings here. That's just exactly the way it is. We're less than human.
Well, it stems from the federal government through the years is basically, and this probably applies to all reservations across the United States, that the laws of occupation apply here because it's actually occupied territory. They have no legitimate claim to any of the land within the reservations, and any kind of co-jurisdiction now that they got here planning on the reservation was only supposed to apply to the ceded territories. So, when it breaks right down to it, the only laws that they got giving them any jurisdiction or any rights whatsoever within the boundaries of any reservation is the laws of occupation, and that's what they apply to the reservation. In '68, they give us an Indian Civil Rights Act, but it doesn't apply to tribal governments because the United States Constitution doesn't apply within the boundaries of the reservation to tribal governments. So we actually don't have no civil rights then.
But it also required tribal consent for any state jurisdiction, any additional state jurisdiction.
Well, it says that.
Yeah.
It says that in their laws, but they don't go by it.
Yeah. And where did the people give their consent for this law enforcement agreement and giving the state additional jurisdiction? Where did the people vote on giving the jurisdiction of the children over to the state then? For truancy.
So there was never any tribal consent to state jurisdiction at all through treaty or referendum?
There's never. As a matter of fact, the only mention of jurisdiction within the treaties was in the 1826 treaty. And in that treaty, we retained all jurisdiction over the land, even the ceded territories, any land. In any proceeding treaty after that, the United States never mentioned jurisdiction. So if they would have wanted jurisdiction, they would have brought it up and asked for it, but they never did. So assumed they didn't want jurisdiction over the people at the time doing the treaties. And they don't have it in the treaties. So the only way they got it now would be by occupation. That's why your United States Constitution doesn't apply to us on anything. In 1924, they made some kind of gesture of good faith and proclaiming everybody citizens, which was strongly turned down by all reservations and tribal people, but it was still forced upon them. But it wasn't really citizenship. We're not protected by the Constitution or involved in it. All the acts Congress did since then just point to the Supreme Court's ruling and upholding that we're not citizens of the United States. And when the attorneys try to point to the Citizen Act 1924, well, Congress just states, well, if we were citizens, they wouldn't have to make like the Indian Civil Rights Act or the 1978 North American Freedom of Religion Act or the Indian Child Welfare Act or any of these acts protecting us because we would already be protected by the United States Constitution. But they have to make these acts especially for us because we're not citizens of the United States. The only laws that apply to us are laws from Congress that are laws of occupation. That's why we can't take our land claims and go to state court or any place else and say, hey, these guys are on my land. You know, I want my land returned. Them laws don't apply to us. They apply to Americans. But we can't do that because they don't apply to us. But yet they use and they throw us in their jails. Laws that don't apply to any other people apply to us. No, I mean, it's for Christ's
America
sake.
still don't have a conscience. Christ.
What was the reaction from resort owners when the Herbst decision ruling came through?
What was that question again?
I was wondering, with the reaction back in the 70s when the Herbst decision went through.
Oh, the white guys took up arms and they were gonna
I told you, they
kill
were,
off all the Shinabs.
yeah,
they
they
were
were
riding
standing
around
on-
with their big
standing on
high-powered
their roof.
rifles and.
yeah, standing on their roof with their rifles and everything.
And as far as that goes, even today, you know, native person out there trying to live off the land or trying to net or anything, they don't have any protections. Anybody can go out there and cut up their net or take it, and there's no cops to call or no game wardens to call to protect anybody to even go out there and fish. Not a native person. There isn't anybody. There isn't anything.
Do you think they were just frightened into that agreement then?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the agreement was more to appease the non-native peoples here than it was to uphold any rights or freedoms that we might have had or supposed to have. Because that was another case there, just like with the Stone decision, with the driving incidences and all the cars that have been taken and fines paid and jail time sat. There was never no
compensation for anything.
compensation, and the same thing with the hunting and fishing. Before that, I can remember my grandma telling me they'd have to hide their deer meat out in the wood, dig pits out in the woods and hide it. They'd have to hide their nets, or a game warden would come by, and if he seen you or caught you, he'd cut your net up or burn it right in front of you. And these are these old ladies that, my grandma was old and her husband died young, and she raised her kids by fishing, and she said she had to hide her nets or the game warden would burn them right in front of her. She didn't have nobody to call or no protection, and it's the same way today. And they didn't even, and the other courts ruled in our favor, but nobody cared about what had already been done and what continued to be done. So it's just a big farce. And I think it just amazes them that we're still here. I would wonder if that's what's going on in Iraq and Afghanistan. They're over there setting up little RBCs to steal what's left of the rights and the resources of the people of those countries.
It's the same thing. I mean, what they're doing in Iraq and Afghanistan is the same thing they're doing here. The same thing that's happening to the Palestinians over there. You take every time we mention treaty, jurisdiction, or injustices of the past, say, well, same way with the blacks. Well, here America wants to heal and forget and go forward. But they never want to heal and forget and go forward when it comes to what happened to the Jews. Oh, they got to remember that. They got to, do everything in their power to compensate these people and do everything that happened to them. But we mentioned what happened to us in the past. Oh, we don't want to remember that. We want to go forward and heal. Well, hell, you're still standing on my land here. How do you go forward when somebody's standing on your land telling you, you got no rights whatsoever? First you got no rights in the state of Minnesota in America, and now you ain't got no rights within your own territories. And you ain't got